Denise Fergus speaking there. Well, joining me now to talk about this is convicted murderer Ben Gunn and former Scotland Yard detective Peter Bleksley. Good to have you both on the programme tonight, gentlemen. And Ben, let's start with you. As a former offender, do you think Denise Fergus is right that he should never be released?
No, but I believe Denise Fergus is entitled to her opinion. It was her son that was killed. She's bound to hold those opinions. The difficulty is you cannot allow individual victims to determine the fate of their offender, so to speak. Some victims are more forgiving than others. Some are harsher than others. You end up with unequal justice if you do.
Well, a lot of our viewers aren't very forgiving. Overwhelming response to this story. Beth Coleman says, it actually scares me that John Venables has been released. He could be anywhere. Alice Dunn says, it's actually disgusting he's been let out once again. The threat he poses to our community, and we're paying for his new identity. I mean, people are very angry about this, aren't they?
I think they are. Partly it's not Channel 5's fault, God forbid, but a general media tone that to hunt down Thompson and Venables and to haul them into the media spotlight as often as possible. This is why they need new identities occasionally, because internet rumours leak out.
He's on his fourth identity. It's cost taxpayers £1 million. He's the one who's breaking his parole, not the media.
He broke his parole, he got recalled, he reoffended, he got recalled, he's now being released. The alternative to not giving him a new identity is to paint a target on his back and a map to his house. We know he will be killed within days without a new identity. Well, okay. If we're so keen on the sanctity of life, are we willing to risk it?
Well, Peter, let's bring you in here now, because, of course, your previous role, you were very much involved in creating identities for former offenders. Do you think he's at risk?
Well, yes, I lived in the witness protection programme myself, so I have experience of creating a new identity, living that lie 24/7, and it's very difficult to maintain that. My concern is that John Venables is enjoying the protection of the law, in so much as that he gets his new identity. He's allowed under the Human Rights Convention a right to privacy and a right to a family life if he chooses. However, he also decides that he's going to flaunt the law and break the law like he did on the last occasion when he downloaded and reportedly distributed indecent images of children. A very serious crime. Now, this will mean, of course, that he's going to be monitored in the community, not only by the probation service, who, let's face it, didn't cover themselves in glory with regards to his last arrest, because if his monitoring had been strictly adhered to...
How hard is it for them to monitor someone like him?
Well, now Venables will also be subject to a sexual offences prevention order, which means the police will be monitoring him as well.
Daily? I mean, Denise says she's scared that he's going to go back to Merseyside and back to her house. I mean, he has been in that area before, even though he's not allowed.
Unfortunately, resources are so stretched, it means that he won't be monitored daily, but there will be regular visits there. So I'm hoping that between the probation service and the police service, that he will be able to be monitored properly. And I also hope that he chooses to obey the law, enjoy the protections that are still afforded to him, and decides not to flaunt the law in future.
Given his track record, is that likely to happen, Ben Gunn?
He went to prison for murdering, horribly, a very young boy.
He's one of the most reviled men in this country, isn't he?
He is, although he was a 10-year-old boy at the time. And that's not the same as being a 30-year-old man. I think we can all agree on that.
Yes, although he was in his late 20s when he decided to download and distribute indecent images of children.
He did, and he went to prison for that, not unreasonably. However, that's a serious reduction in offending, it has to be said.
Right,
that's not
but how
murder.
many chances do you think he should get?
I think if he breaks the law, he should be dealt by due judicial process, serve his sentence and get released. He has served his sentence for the murder of James Bulger.
A new flat, more job seekers allowance?
He gets these. Well, can he get a job?
At enormous cost. All these things cost money
and take a year to keep him in prison.
And take up an awful lot of precious resources, which could be directed elsewhere. I think really Venables should be regarded, should regard himself as being in the last chance saloon. How many more identities, how much more supervision is this man going to be allowed? Now is the time for him to step up to the mark and actually decide that he's going to abide by the law and not breach it. If he continues to breach and commit further offences, then I think the Ministry of Justice has to grow a spine and say, you've had your chances, enough is enough, and with your doomsday picture that you paint about a map to his house and a target on his chest, maybe with more breaches that'll be exactly what he deserves.
I'm sorry, no, I cannot support an ex-policeman supporting vigilante murder. I just can't. I'm odd in that way. No, Venables has to have new identities purely because of the media building him up as an iconic, totemic hate figure.
This man downloaded
we know
and
what he did.
distributed vile
Yes,
images of
but-
children being sexually abused.
And he served his time for that. He
Yes, he
served his
has.
time for that. We cannot lock him up forever. Every time he creates a new crime, you sentence him for that crime. It costs, at a base figure, £40,000 a year. Of course, Venables is held in very particular circumstances in prison that could have doubled the cost annually.
So you would support-
£80,000 a year for the next 50
him for
years.
the rest of his life, even if he carries on offending
No,
and
he
reoffending?
goes back to prison. He is on life licence, as am I. Any significant slip-ups, and you might get a 2-year sentence for that offence, but your life licence can kick in, and you can do the next 20 years in prison at huge cost. It's probably cheaper to give him the new identities.
Okay, and Peter, just briefly, I mean, if vigilantes were to kill him, then people like you would have blood on their hands for suggesting that he's not allowed any more protection.
I am
You
not
said he
condoning
would deserve
vigilante.
that.
I'm not condoning vigilantism in any way, shape, or form. My hope is that John Venables decides now to enjoy the protections of the law that are afforded to him, and that he abides by the law.
We have to leave it there. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me tonight.